Oh man, I never get tired of looking at her. So today, I'm having a long couple of days because it's cuffing season, it's wedding season, and I have got a wedding I gotta go to on the border. If you ever thought that riding a motorcycle would get you chicks, and then you figured out that only guys ever looked at you on a bike, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. What's up, y'all? I have got a wedding I gotta go to on the border. I really want to ride when I'm out there. I'm a little worried though, because I don't know if you guys follow the news at all. A lot of things going on at the border. Cartels are out there, especially. Not exactly the safest place. But I do want to go and ride. I think it's great. Hopefully I'll get some footage of that so y'all can see that. I've been so busy, I haven't had a lot of time to work on my own music. And then everybody I've been talking to that wants to play and work on stuff, apparently it is really like wedding season, cuffing season. And here in Texas, it's also state fair season. State fair just opened up, which also makes it a little bit more difficult working out, trying to meet up with people, because everybody's usually at the state fair, or there's a bunch of traffic in and around the state fair area. So it's just a little difficult to make things work and plan. And it kind of looks like I'll probably be playing more towards the end of the month, so maybe in a video or two I can work some playing in. I'm just gonna knock out a whole bunch of other things I need to do before then. A lot of it's just travel. It's like 3 weddings, party, birthdays, Halloween. Like, it's a lot. And that's saying a lot, especially going into next month is Thanksgiving. So it'll be family time, followed by December, which is more family time. I'm actually a little excited for both of those. This is about the time of year I break keto and start eating all the pumpkin spice everything. I haven't broken it yet, but I know it's coming. Well, I've had pumpkin spice coffee already, but I haven't had like a pumpkin spice bread or muffins or anything yet. But that's mainly because I've been busy enough. I haven't been anywhere to go like try any. Hey, if y'all guys like this video or any of my videos, give me a like and subscribe. Leave a comment. I'll answer your comments. And if y'all got any questions about anything I use or, you know, do, I can answer your questions as well. I've got some big things coming. I'm working on some things that I can get to you guys. If anybody's interested in shirts and merch, I've got some ideas. And I've been talking to some companies and going through cleaning my studio, and I have a lot of stuff I've accumulated over the years. I'm pretty sure I think I can work out something. It's just going to take a little bit to get the logistics down, but I'm working on a way where I can maybe do giveaways. It'll probably have to do with you subscribing in some way. I just got to figure out the medium with which is the best way to make it kind of a raffle type situation. But I've got the better part of 20 years of collecting music equipment, and I don't use all of it. I've got plenty of stuff that I have not touched in forever. And I've been really trying to deep clean the studio, because I've actually been looking. It's that thing where you're cleaning and looking for the smallest thing, because the big things you always know where they are because you see them constantly because they're big. So like if you have a guitar amp you don't use, I mean just the cabinet alone could be like 3 feet high. You always see it sitting somewhere, you know where it is, you know what's stacked on it to an extent. But when it's like the small things, guitar pedals, DIs, preamps, things like that, you don't always remember where you put those because it's just such a small thing. You don't remember, because sometimes you put things in their original box and you put it up. I know for me personally it's kind of like an era thing. Different eras of my life in playing music and recording music, I've stashed things away in these big totes. Well, actually, totes or boxes, but mostly totes. So I've got all these totes that we also used for holding our merch when we were touring and doing shows. Well, those totes, I also used them for like, oh, this was this album era, this recording era, this band era, and it'll have a bunch of stuff from there. Sometimes you think that you used something during this time and it's in that era, and you go looking for that box from that era, and you pull the box out of the tote out and you find there's a bunch of stuff in there that you'd forgotten about. Some of it you actually want to use or need to figure out how to move around and do something else with. And even just weaning through an era tote box, like, it just takes forever. Because, I mean, there's nostalgia. It's kind of like when you date a woman that likes to go through old pictures and stare at, what is it, photo albums. I never understood why they do that. They reminisce. But I guess guys don't do that. It's like women think about the times and stuff in pictures, and men think about, the thing and where that thing comes from. Which is why men will have, like, the dumbest thing. It'll be like, a beer can that's like tapped to the wall with a nail. And they're like, yeah, my buddy did that in '89. Like, a woman just doesn't get it. And it's like we dudes just have weird attachment to weird things. Like, it's a nostalgia thing. I know I probably definitely have those in weird ways. Probably more music related, because I kind of got guitars that way. Because the guitars that I own, I kind of got them in different areas of my life. Where, like, I've got a set of guitars, I call them the twins. It's the exact same guitar. They're two custom shop guitars. And that era of my life was pretty funny why I have two of the exact same guitar. What's even funnier is I actually prefer one over the other, even though they look exactly the same and should technically be exactly the same. But, well, they are the custom shop. I guess they're hand built by a luthier, so I guess there's going to be like that subtle feeling of difference. They're both great guitars. I know that the one that I prefer just has it has this ability to hit like a Les Paul, but also sound like a jazz body, but also get a little warm and sound like kind of like the ES335. And that thing, I mean, it's just my all-around use. I can pick that thing up and play anything I need to get done. Just anything, any genre, anything I need to do. I know it's like steady, and it sounds amazing and great. The other one, its twin sister, for whatever reason, just always sounds a little rounder, a little warmer, a little less bright. It sounds, to be honest, it sounds more vintage. And where a lot of people usually, they want that vintage look, a lot of people typically don't want the vintage sound. Because with the vintage sound comes limitations. And that's where if you got like a Nocaster, the original iteration of the Telecaster guitar, you really can't play a Nocaster through a Marshall JCM 800 and get some really, like, loud rock tones. It's gonna always be a little thin. It's not gonna be as, like, loud. It might be a little pingy too, because they can get a little pingy with those old school pickups. Then on top of that, the old school single coils, they get really noisy when you go through loud amps, because they were never really set up to not be noisy. So it's just things like that. People typically look and they want, that's why when you look at any guitars for sale, or Fender and Gibson, they keep doing, I think it's Fender more than Gibson, to be honest, but a lot of other companies are doing it too, where they do like these custom shop relics, you know, a relic job, or then they do the Player Series relic job, or I know Fender did the Road Worn series, because I looked at one of those once and I really wanted one. I actually thought it was cool. As cheesy as it is, it was more like the idea of, I like the specs on it, the pickup and the neck, but yeah, when they do those relic jobs on them, it's because people want it to look that way, but they actually don't want it to sound that way. And even when you see most people that have, like, play live, and they have these relic guitars, except for somebody probably like Joe Bonamassa, he still plays relic, not relic guitars, but like authentic old guitars that are still set up like old school. Most everybody else still does play their guitars where they switch out the pickups, they switch out bridges, they switch out the hardware, they put newer tuners on, you know, those Les Paul. If you remember in the 90s, those Les Pauls had those green vintage tuners, I think that's what they're called, and those things just sucked. Like, they were horrible. And then, you know, people were putting locking tuners and Grover tuners on, at least to step up on their guitars. Then you got these, like, purists that want to keep it all original, and I'm like, dude, it's a 90s studio. Come on. You want to keep it all original? Like, my favorite guitars of all time were 90s studios. They were just a workhorse. I could throw different pickups in them. I always knew they were always going to have a consistent sound together. But the whole thing with those 90s studios is they were made like a full body standard. They just didn't have the binding. So it was a full finish on it. They weren't the ones that were chambered bodies, so they're lighter. It's a full body guitar. It felt like it. But those guitars were infamously known for the neck relief being pulled, and it banana bowed on the hardware. So your hardware would eventually just kind of like bow in or bow out, kind of depending on your neck relief. And so if you put thicker strings on like I do, I use 13 through 56s. Well, I use those for years. I use a couple different now. If I have a 25-inch scale guitar, I'm using 13 through 56. And if I have a Les Paul, what is that, 23 3/4, I use 12 through 52s. But if you've got those are still thick strings. Most players probably use something like 10s, maybe 11s at most if they want a thicker sound. Most people just don't use that thick of a string, because at that high of a tension, the thing that you need to take into account is most people are not used to playing a wound third. That's usually, if you're playing standard, that's your G string. The G string on most sets of strings, say from like an 8 to a 10, that G string is probably just a solid core steel. It's not a wound steel. Meaning, it's kind of easier to bend, a little easier to like feel on. Your fingers, if you're used to playing on it, it's smoother when you slide over it. When you put a wound third on, it's a little, I mean, it's wound, so it's a little rougher. It's almost like ribbed all the way up and down. And some people, when they slide and do, you know, bending is obviously a lot harder because it's a lot stronger. But when you're sliding on it and stuff, if you're not used to it and you don't have the callus for it, because you're just used to playing these thinner strings, it could slice you open. But my personal preference, I always like thicker string. It just has a tighter, more robust sound. It sounds more full. If you've never played thicker strings through a crank like JCM 800 type tone, like, you don't even know what heaven is. It's just so amazing sounding. Like that, I mean, that alone will get you hooked on wanting to play rock music. It's Porsche. I don't understand why people still get on their phone and hold it up to their face to talk. Like, we live in a world, especially that dude's driving a Porsche, where he could be on Bluetooth, I assume, in the car. Although, now I think about it, it is Porsche. Like, a lot of higher-end brands, Porsche and Lexus and stuff, started doing this weird thing where it's like, you have to pay to unlock the feature on the car. So they'll be like, yeah, it comes standard with heated seats, but you have to pay a subscription to unlock those heated seats. And you know, it's like a monthly extra $10 a month for heated seats. Like, weird. It's so weird because that culture of paying monthly for the extra little thing, like, it started kind of in the music world. You would actually probably in the video game world. In the video game world, I'm not a video game person, but I know that in video games back in the day, I think in the late 90s, they started doing things where in the video games you played, you could upgrade your character by buying things within the game, but that meant that you needed to buy like tokens to use in the game. So, and these were like PC games. You would have to buy those things with real money, and then they would give you tokens, token credit in the game, and you would buy the thing in the game with those token credits. So people that would play the game, they would play the game, and in the game it was probably like, yeah, your first step in the game, you go to meet this quartermaster, and he trades you this thing you found of cloth, or that you found a cloth. You trade the quartermaster the cloth for 2 tokens of copper, and that 2 tokens of copper, you can go down the road to the general store and get yourself a pocket knife, and the pocket knife's what you use to carve wood, and it was all these steps and stuff to try to keep you engaged and working in the game. But because it was a monetary faction within the game, it made it to where people could, in the real world, use their money, buy X amount of tokens for real money, bypass all the easy steps that are supposed to slowly level them up, and just buy the armor and the sword, go straight there because they spent $200 in the game, and they didn't do all the what do they call those, side quests that are the mini side quests that get you to there. You're just able to buy it and then play. And for the people that have no patience, which I think in the world is like 90% of people don't have patience. That's why you see all these ads like lose weight quick and get rich quick, and the secret to social media, and grow your business here. This app will help you, make money when it'll give you a penny every time you buy something. Just download this app and you'll put pennies into this stock. Everybody's got these weird ways to make money off of trying to sell you that you're going to make money, or you're going to level up your life quicker. Really all it is they figured out how to game the system, knowing that most people don't have patience, which is kind of what's interesting about playing music and working on motorcycles. There is no easy way to get faster at being on the motorcycle. There's no easier way. There's no buying your way to the skill set of riding a motorcycle. You have to put the time in, you have to put the effort, and you have to go out there and hit the ground and get the miles, because you don't learn all the techniques by taking a class once from a professional and him showing you. You have to constantly, and I would say it's the same with guitar, you have to make it a culture of going out and writing and doing these things and recording. You have to practice the guitar. Some people will have that natural ability to just pick up a guitar and it just kind of immediately clicks for them. But in my experience, the people that it just kind of clicks for on guitar or the drums or the bass or singing, a lot of times that natural talent, it's like it levels up where they immediately, something kind of clicks and they're there, say 40%, and it sounds good, and people are like, wow, you should go try out for American Idol. Oh wow, you should go play in a band. Oh wow, you should record yourself playing drums. You should do X things. Because they watch it on social media or on TV, and they think, well, that's what people do. Because, my nephew can kind of sing along to a Chris Stapleton song, he should go audition to be on American Idol. And in reality, the people that actually kind of do well and get far in music are the ones that you have to have somewhat of a natural ability, yes. but you also have to have the discipline to work hard at it. Because that discipline at working hard, that 40% natural ability you have, the discipline you add on top will also bring in another 20%. So now you're at 60%. And you're like probably thinking, 60%, that doesn't sound, that's not, I think people are at 90 or 100. In reality, you think of the great musicians and singers. Yeah, there's people that are technically, you know, the technicality of playing the instrument. Say, Jimi Hendrix. His technical ability on guitar for that era was overwhelming. It was 90%. Here's the thing though, he was trying to sing and play guitar, and his singing was only at like 20 or 30%. He was not a good singer. People don't remember Jimi Hendrix for his singing ability. They remember him for his guitar. You always hear people talk about trying to play Jimi Hendrix songs, but they don't talk about trying to sing like Jimi Hendrix. That means his singing ability isn't up there. So what did he have to do? He made up for it. He made interesting writing. He wrote lyrics that were interesting. He spent time writing the lyrics just as much as he spent time writing and figuring out how to make the guitar fancier so it'd be interesting. So what happens? Now, that writing ability lyrically, another 20% on top of the 20% he's got, you know, of talent at singing, means that his singing on his songs is 40%. Now, he's not necessarily a really great vocalist. When you listen to his songs, we all know him, we know the words, we know the lyrics, but in reality, most of his singing is more like talking. He's talking words while playing these songs, but nobody ever talks about that. So when you think about the talent that goes into being great, it's not that you're the greatest singer. Then you have these rare anomalies where you have a really great singer that is like really great on an instrument as well, and that's usually the person that goes a lot farther. But that means that that person knew that they had the discipline to work on writing and practicing both things, and probably honestly practicing both things individually. So you could argue someone like Freddie Mercury of Queen. Freddie Mercury of Queen played piano and he sang, and then he did both things phenomenally well, which is why Queen was such a, for me personally, Queen was such a huge impact of a band. But they were just an amazing band. Like, so many hits, so many great songs. Like, I mean, just think about the fact that Queen is the only band in history that I can immediately think of that wrote a 7-minute opera, Bohemian Rhapsody, a 7-minute opera, and made that into a hit song, a pop song, and a legacy musical song. That song is still played in bars, it's still played at parties, and it's 2023. He's been dead for, I think, 40 years. He died in the 80s, probably a little less than 40 years to be honest. But when you think about that, he was a phenomenal songwriter and a phenomenal singer and a phenomenal pianist, and he combined all those things and he pushed the gamut on it. Like, he did what he had to do, and he became great. It makes sense. Same token, you want to talk about people that are not that great of a singer, but are one of the greats. Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan couldn't sing. I know a lot of people that personally love his music, and that's cool, but that dude couldn't sing. But he was, where he couldn't sing, what did he do? He made up for it. He made up for it by writing amazing songs and lyrics. So he could write an amazing song on an instrument, and he could write an amazing song lyrically that made you think, that pushed the gamut. And that's what he's known for. People know Bob Dylan not because of his musical prowess. I mean, he used basic chords making folk songs. Well, he did an electric album, but that album kind of tanked. You know, we don't talk about that. But when you think about the greats didn't usually have technical ability and all this technical prowess. They were just great songwriters. And remember, pull hard, play hard.